Hey everyone, thanks for checking out another video here on ChuckWagon MTG. Today we're going to be covering what Ixalan means for Modern Merfolk. Now, I've been a Merfolk player for a long time. One of the first decks I ever made back in the 90s was a Merfolk deck, and the Modern Merfolk deck that I currently have was constructed almost a decade ago, making it the oldest complete deck that I own, and has seen only minor tweaks and changes over the years. So when Ixalan was first announced, it was mentioned that it was going to focus heavily on tribal. My first two hopes were for merfolk and for goblins, two of the most iconic Magic the Gathering tribes. My hopes would be realized with the announcement of dual decks merfolk versus goblins. But were these dual decks going to be the only appearance of either of these two tribes, or would we have a chance to play them in standard? More importantly, would we see anything to enhance the current Modern Merfolk decks, or to bring tribal goblins to Tier 1 in Modern? Well, goblins didn't make the cut, but what about Merfolk? That's what we're going to be exploring today, Ixalan's impact on Modern Merfolk. Now, we don't have all the spoilers yet, but I just couldn't wait to do this video, and we have a decent number of cards to look at, so we'll see what Ixalan has to offer. First up, we have Deep-Root Waters, an enchantment that comes in at the uncommon level for 2 generic and a blue. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with hexproof. Now, while it looks fun and it's probably great for casual, a 3-drop that does nothing that turns it comes into the play is just too slow for Merfolk. This really isn't what we want to be doing. Next up, we have Kumena's Speaker, a 1/1 Merfolk Shaman that comes in at the uncommon level for 1 green mana. Kumena's Speaker gets +1/+1 as long as you control another Merfolk or an island. Now, we've seen a couple builds that incorporate Collective Company, and I kind of like them. Now, this one, paired with Collective Company in that deck, I think could be an interesting card. Nothing exemplary, but I still think that it at least deserves recognition as a possibility in the Coco Merfolk builds. Up next, we have Kapala, Warden of Waves, a 2/2 legendary Merfolk wizard for 2 blue and a generic mana. Spells that your opponents cast that target a Merfolk you control cost 2 generic mana more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate that target a Merfolk you control cost 2 generic mana more to activate. I really want to like this guy. I really do. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad card. It would be a replacement for those decks that run Kira, the Great Glass Spinner, and it is a Merfolk, which is a 1-up on Kira. It also protects every time a kill spell is cast, and not just the first instance in a turn like Kira does. But hexproof versus hexproof, unless you pay 2 more, to me the hexproof is going to win. Turn 3 kill spells are cheap and they are real, and in a meta where Fatal Push exists, I don't see this being as good. So essentially you can drop Kapala, and then the next turn all your opponent has to do is crack a fetch land, and they're going to have enough mana to cast Fatal Push and pay the 2 extra, kill Kapala, and it's kind of all over. Yeah, I could be wrong on this one. I don't know. Maybe if it weren't legendary, possibly, but yeah, I'm saying no to this guy. Up next, we have Herald of Secret Streams, a 2/3 Merfolk warrior that comes in at the rare level for 3 generic and a blue mana. Creatures you control with a +1/+1 counter on them can't be blocked. This seems like something that Standard could really get behind, and it's going to be great in casual, but no dice for Modern Merfolk. It's too expensive, and Merfolk really doesn't really run counters, so it's just not really what we're looking for right now. Up next, we have Waker of the Wilds, a 3/3 Merfolk Shaman coming in at the rare level for 2 green and 2 generic mana. It has X and 2 green, put X +1/+1 counters on target land you control. That land becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. This seems to pair great with Herald of Secret Streams. The XGG ability seems pretty good, but still too slow what we're looking for in Modern. Essentially, this would have to go in the Coco build, and this just isn't what we're looking to do either. So, unfortunately, a no-go there as well. Up next, we have the Deeproot Champion, a 1/1 Merfolk Shaman for 1 green and a generic. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Deeproot Champion. This is another one looking like it's going to pair well with Herald of Secret Streams. It's not a bad card. In fact, Merfolk in Standard is starting to look like a possible thing. I'm kind of excited about that. And while this is looking slightly better than some of the other ones we're looking at, it just doesn't do enough to replace any of the other 2-drops we're currently running in Modern. It's a pretty efficient and tight ship, and this guy just does not make the cut. Next, we have Tishana's Wayfinder, a 2/2 Merfolk Scout that comes in at the common level for 1 green and 2 generic mana. And when Tishana's Wayfinder enters the battlefield, it explores. Explore is a new mechanic. It is revealed the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then put that card back or put it into your graveyard. I like this Explore mechanic. It's kind of fun. Sorting through your deck is always a good thing, and while this card is honestly more on the path as to what we're actually looking for new cards for Modern Merfolk, the current 3-drops that we have they're altogether better. Once again, Standard, this looks like this could possibly be building towards something great, but another whiff in my mind when it comes to Modern Merfolk. Up next, we have Tishana, Voice of Thunder, a legendary Merfolk Shaman coming in at the Mythic Rare level. She cost 1 green, 1 blue, and 5 generic mana. Tishana, Voice of Thunder's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size, and when Tishana enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control. Holy cow, this card is the nuts for EDH. This card really can't do much for anything that we're hoping to do in Modern. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. It ain't gonna work. Even in Standard, that's a lot to come up with. She'll probably see some kind of play, but aside from that, Commander players rejoice. I know I'm going to try building something around this, but aside from that, we're not going to see any use for it. Up next, we have Search for Azcanta, a legendary enchantment coming in at the rare level for 1 blue and 1 generic mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. Then, if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Search for Azcanta. When it transforms into Azcanta, the Sunken Ruin. Tap, add 1 blue to your mana pool, or 2 generic, blue, and tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Now, I included this for a couple reasons. First, it's blue. Second, it's cheap. And third, it has little Merfolk guys on the front of it. It's really cool art. I'm digging it, really am. At first glance, it seems like a good card, but it's just not. Filtering your cards is great, but there are just too many other things we want in our 2-drop spots that just fit much better and contribute to the deck a hell of a lot more. Plus, I'd hate to drop this, finally flip it, and then watch an opponent drop Tectonic Edge or Ghost Quarters. That just feels bad. Next, we have Siren Storm Tamer, a 1/1 Siren Pirate Wizard at the uncommon level for 1 blue. It has flying and pay 1 blue, sacrifice Siren Storm Tamer, counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. Okay, just hear me out on this, okay? I know he's not a Merfolk, and I know we already have Curse Catcher. But let's just consider this guy, even for a brief second. Now, he's not a Merfolk, strike one. His ability does cost a blue to activate, strike two. But he has built-in evasion. That is a bonus. And he's relevant late game. Another bonus. He can target spells and abilities that target you and your creatures. That's a big bonus. I'm not saying that he's an auto-include, but he may see some sideboard play against decks that just need an extra turn or two to get things done. Next we have Merfolk Branchwalker, a 2/1 Merfolk Scout for a green and a generic mana. When Merfolk Branchwalker enters the battlefield, it explores. You reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, then put that card back or put it into your graveyard. Another that would have to go into the Coco build to begin with, and it would be just sideboard if anything at all. I can't think of any 2-drop I would want to swap this out for, aside from maybe Harbinger against decks with few creatures. So I guess this is kind of a maybe, but nothing really thrilling. Next, we have Headwater Sentries, a 2/5 Merfolk. Never mind. No, we're not. No. Not even talking about this. No. Lastly, we have Shapers of Nature, a 3/3 Merfolk Shaman that costs 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 generic, and has the ability of 3 generic and 1 green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and 2 generic, 1 blue, remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature control, and draw a card. This guy, kind of like some of the others, might see some standard play. He's definitely not bad, but he's not great. But I just don't think he's anything that we're looking for in any of the builds that we currently have for Modern Merfolk. Not the worst, but by far, these are not the Merfolk we are looking for. You can go about your business. Move along. Well, that about covers it for what we currently have spoiled for Ixalan. I guess at the end of the day, it's really not looking like we got a whole lot of help for Modern Merfolk as we currently know it, although the Coco build is looking, I guess, slightly better. In my eyes, I am personally going to attempt to build a Coco version and see what I can do with some of these new cards here. My hopes aren't exceptionally high, but at least we have some options now. Well, thank you very much for checking this out. Greatly appreciated. Let me know your thoughts on what we said here today. Agree, disagree, think I'm absolutely insane. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, throw us a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, ChuckWagon MTG.